morning, dear guests, partners, supporters, and textile enthusiasts. We are more than happy to welcome you to today's event, Transitions, Transfers and Co-Creation in the Field of Textiles and Beyond, live from Berlin. Every day, we are surrounded by a multitude of fabrics in very different contexts and confronted with different functions. The choice of material in combination with processing and technique creates an infinite number of possibilities of how and where textiles are used. These surfaces are virtually our constant companion. Textiles are on the one hand an ancient testimony of culture, and on the other hand a real technology of the future, which offers many starting points for research and innovation. Looking at the textile industry, this branch is in a strong transformation phase, especially due to globalization, but also the increasingly strong requirements for sustainability and innovation. However, it is also still a genuinely traditional industry, especially in Germany. Young, innovative ideas and new applications for technical textiles are only slowly arriving in the industry, and many traditional companies are dependent on these ideas to continue to exist in the future. What kind of spaces, tools and methods do we need to bring young ideas and long-standing know-how together, to initiate new strategic collaborations and enable innovation processes? It is incredibly exciting to be on the move in this broad field and to link different areas of knowledge, bringing together a wide variety of players and initiating discourses across boundaries. And exactly this is also our goal for today. I'm Essie Glomb, the project coordinator of the TPL project and research associate at the Academy of Art Berlin, who is also the consortium lead in the Textile Prototyping Lab. With this event, we would like to wrap up the research project, Textile Prototyping Lab, after an intense and fruitful 4.5 years research period. We will introduce methods, infrastructures, and pilot projects implemented and developed throughout this time. And for this, we invited many guests and project partners to present the outcomes and discuss current textile-related topics. At the same time, we also want to take a look into the future together with you through specifically developed interactive formats. This means today's agenda is fully packed with a diverse program. Starting along the journey of the Textile Prototyping Lab, we will hear about the current state of the German textile industry and learn from a best practice example from the Netherlands, to eventually end the morning with an interactive session. After a short break, 2 parallel moderated panels boosting the entrepreneurial economy and unlocking talents will highlight some of the most exciting projects from different perspectives and grant an insight into applied methods and strategies. The lunch break is followed by curated thematic discussions led by our partners. A roundtable discussion complements the program of the day in the afternoon. As we have many international guests, this event will be held mainly in English. Only the interactive parts will offer German sessions to allow everyone to join the discussions. And I would like to mention that the event is being recorded and the non-interactive parts will be shared online later. Before we start the program, I would like to introduce Lies from State Studio Berlin, next to me in front of the camera, and her colleagues. State is a Berlin-based initiative that builds cultural programs at the intersection of science, art, and society to help forward ideas for a sustainable future, and they are our cooperation partner and co-host for today. And now, to get the day started, I hand over to Lies, and I hope you enjoy the day.
Right, so thank you very much. Thank you very much, Essie, for passing over to me and for inviting State to collaborate with you on this event. So at State, we focus on projects that deal with the questions that shape our tomorrow. And at the same time, through in each our project, we really strive to foster bridges between disciplines. And these two ideas, the future and interdisciplinarity, are really central to the endeavors of the Textile Prototyping Lab. So it made a lot of sense for us to co-produce this event today. Thank you again, Essie, for inviting us. We're happy and honored. So, as you mentioned, the purpose of today's event is to present you the results of this 4.5 years of research of the Textile Prototyping Lab. And another purpose of the event is to gather you all, so you, the participants who come from different disciplines, who come from business, industry, research, design, and to allow you to connect with one another, with all these other people who share with you this passion for textile and open innovation. So very much in line with the values of the Textile Prototyping Lab, we have designed today's event as a context for sharing knowledge, for learning from one another. And that means, in today's context, learning not only from the keynote speakers and panelists, but also for learning from one another, so from you all as participants. So concretely, in between the keynotes and the case studies, we have foreseen several moments for several interactive formats. Formats where you'll be able to get to know one another, to share what you know, to share about the questions that you have and would like to find answer to, and perhaps, who knows, hopefully also to find partners for future collaborations. All right, and to get things started, we actually would really love to have a better idea of what the group of today looks like. So, sort of, who are you? Who you are? Who are behind your screen, which unfortunately we can't see, but would love to relate more to. And so we have prepared sort of a little icebreaker or playful starter. And my colleagues will now share a link with you in the chat, a link to interactive slides. So that will be a light beginning. And on my side, I will be sharing my screen so that you can see each other's answers. And yeah, so while clicking on the link that was shared with you in the chat, you will see in your browser this first question that we have for you, and which is, where are you joining us from? Because we know that probably many of you are in Germany, but perhaps some of you are also joining us from other parts of the world. So I think now that my screen is being shared, that you can also see it, or it will be shared in a minute. And I also have to just let you know that in studio there will probably be a little bit of a delay between what I say and when you hear it, because of the studio delay. So I see now your answers coming up. You are joining us from Berlin, so as you mentioned, this is also where we are. You're joining us from Berlin-Kreuzberg, from Chemnitz, that's also in Germany, from Austria, from Stuttgart, from Hof, I guess that's another city, or perhaps that's the Hof of a building, I don't know. And from Germany, that's really big for a country, so feel free to be a little more precise. All right, I will give you just a little more time to input your current location. So you're also joining us from Frankfurt am Main. And what else? From Vienna. Nice. Nice to have you join us from there. from Halle in Saal in Germany. Thank you. And and I think I will from Berlin-Schöneberg, München-Gladbach. Great. So thank you. I will now move on to the next question. We have 3 of them. Our other question is, what is the first word that comes to your mind when you think of textile? So this should be very quick of an answer. Don't think too much. Really close your eyes and first word coming up to your mind. Right, and there is again a bit of a delay, so I'll wait for your answers coming up. Garne. So I wouldn't know how to translate that in English. That's a thread, I guess. Towel. Connections. Tactile. Clothes. Sustainable. Future material. Haptic. Research. Quality. Passion. Nice. And what did I not read? Sloppy. Light and soft. And technology, engineering. Okay, so it's really, really nice to have this overall overview of of our collective representation for textile, or at least these first things coming up. And you also added feeling to this and unfolding. Great, thanks. And I will move on to our third and last question before I then move on with more technical guidelines. And so the third question is, you might perhaps have to think about it a little more, but hopefully not too much. What knowledge, skills, or personality traits are your superpowers for working on collaborative projects? So this is anonymous, so you don't have to be humble. You can really say that that you are a superhero or superheroine in working on collaborative projects, and that you have amazing skills, and actually we are quite convinced of this. And perhaps for you a superpower is something very simple, but these little things can also be extremely valuable in working in a team. So I have here the first results coming, the first answers, and one of you mentioned communication. Yeah, very important. And patience, empathy, and flexibility. Yes, openness. And another person is funny, which for sure is makes working together nicer, and it gives a lot of value to collaboration, humor, and then you have probably expertise in hands-on design, and you have knowledge in that you could share as part of these collaborative projects, and you have curiosity. What else did I not read? Overview and passion. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you very much. I'll be closing my slides right now. And I will move on with some technical guidelines on how to navigate Hopin. So Hopin is the platform where we are today, and we are here you are seeing us on the main stage. When you click on the menu on the left side, so my right, your left, you will see this menu with the reception, Empfang. So this is where you can see the program of today with all our activities listed and the schedules. You can see the Hauptbühne, or the stage, as I said, where we are now. Then the sessions. So the sessions are a space that we will be using later on for our interactive formats, and I will give you more info later on. And then we have also the networking or Netzwerken tab. This is where you'll have the opportunity to connect with other participants, and so to be in a one-on-one meeting with another person that you don't know but are about to learn, to get to know. If you have a technical problem, we have for support our technical expert Linus, and you can speak to Linus by going to sessions troubleshooting area. So menu, session, troubleshooting, and there, you can ask, tell us what's your problem, and Linus will certainly be able to support. And another thing I want to tell you about the technique, on the other side of your screen, so on the right side of your screen, you can see there the chat feature. With the chat, you can talk to to all the people, all the participants of today's event. You already used it. That's where we shared the link. And if you want to communicate with one specific person, then you can go a bit next to the chat. You will see the People tab. And there you can search the name or scroll down to the list and find the person you're looking for, and then you can write a private message, and that would be the moment, for example, for sharing your email address and staying in touch, which is something we really hope that you do. Like, we really hope that today's event is a context for creating bonds that will last beyond today's event. So that was for me now. We will see each other again later on when I'll introduce further interactive formats, and I will transition back to Essie. So Essie will tell us what's happening next. Thank you.
Thank you, Lise, for handing the word back to me, and thanks for this very interesting interactive session. It was nice to see your answers. I would now like to pass the word to Sane Bersina, who is a professor for conceptual development of materials and surfaces at the Textile and Surface Design Department at Weißensee Academy of Art, Berlin. The university is the consortial leader and one of the 5 founding partners of the Textile Prototyping Lab, and thus also host of today's event, which she will kick off with her welcome speech now. Hi, Sane.
Thank you, Essie. Good morning, everyone, and dear guests. You are most welcome to the Textile Prototyping Lab Symposium, Transitions, Transfers and Co-Creation within the field of textiles and beyond, which aims to summarize a 4.5 years long research project by showcasing the journey of the project and selected case studies. But before we go into the details about the project, I shall briefly introduce our research unit, Design and Experimental Material Research, or shortly DXM, based at the Weißensee Academy of Art, Berlin, as this is the environment from which the Textile Prototyping Lab idea comes from. DXM unit is located within the Textile and Surface Design Department, focusing on textile design practices and material innovations at the intersection of technology, science, crafts and culture. DXM is founded and led by 2 professors. Professor Christiane Sauer, an architect by training. She's representing the research-focused functional surfaces and active matter in spatial context. And the second research-focused soft technologies within the context of body-object space is led by myself. Our research ranges from the typical research and development projects, for example, in the fields of health and well-being, architecture, smart materials, and active matter. But we also have done research addressing science communication aspects by developing and testing tools and methods that enable better collaboration between designers and technologists. And we do some more specific projects exploring digital futures of materials and textiles. But what is very specific about these research projects, it is that almost all of them have started out as student projects at our department, and later they developed into funded research undertakings. So one can say that there is very strong symbiotic and synergetic link between the teaching and research at our department. The Textile Prototyping Lab research project originated from our department when we all students, lecturers, technicians, and especially alumni painfully experienced the continuous lack of sufficient textile prototyping infrastructure in Berlin and in Germany in general. So together with SC Glom, at that time master student with us, we decided to actively tackle this problem. And so the concept of Textile Prototyping Lab was conceived in order to address this deficit. So what exactly the Textile Prototyping Lab is? It is the first open laboratory for the development of high-tech textiles in Germany and the platform to promote open innovation and networking between research, design and industry. The model for this lab, which has been tested for the past 4.5 years, is informed by an analysis of selected European textile labs and the expertise of Fab Lab Berlin in establishing open innovation platforms. Huge inspiration for us was Textile Lab in Tilburg, the Netherlands, and we are very happy that today we will also have a talk by Hebe Westerpen from Textile Lab directly from Tilburg. The Textile Prototyping Lab project is part of the large government-funded research consortium called FutureTex, which aims to revitalize the textile industry within the former East Germany area. The focus of this infrastructure development project lies on enabling low-threshold access to textile prototyping for a variety of users, in particular in relation to high-tech textiles. It also offers research and development and services for textile professionals as well as customers from the textile industry. It provides place for exchange on technology and trends, and it is also a think tank and incubator for novel concepts. The aims of Textile Prototyping Lab are threefold. Firstly, to establish novel product development through an early inclusion of design in the entire process as a driving force for innovative products and services. Secondly, to close the gap between cutting-edge product ideas, research and industrial production through strategic implementation of beneficial collaborations. And thirdly, to develop an alternative and effective model for the process chain based on interdisciplinary collaboration between research, design and industry to optimize prototype production by employing an open innovation approach. The structure of the TPL consists of a central lab, a textile prototyping facility based in Berlin-Weißensee, and this is complemented by an external shared infrastructure network comprising diverse specialist expertise relevant to the project, the so-called centralized labs. And then, of course, it is all embedded within the wider context of the industry. All levels of infrastructure are aiming to accommodate different user types to enable flexible top-down and bottom-up innovation processes functioning at the same time or as relevant. Of course, this concept wouldn't have been possible without our great collaborating partners, which represent a variety of disciplines. The Saxon Textile Research Institute and the Textile Research Institute Thüringen-Vogtland are two renowned German research institutes specialized in technical textiles. Together with the Fraunhofer Institute for Reliability and Microelectronics, they represent the established research organizations within this project. Prototypes for Europe contributes with their expertise to the open innovation structure development and community-based business strategy. Weißensee Academy of Art Berlin is the design and product development expert within this consortium. And last but not least, I shall mention that this research project is funded by the German Ministry of Education and Research within the framework 2020 Partnerschaft für Innovation as part of the project FutureTex. I would like to thank the funding authorities as well as the extended network of the project partners who keep supporting the vision of this undertaking. And now I will close this very small introduction by wishing everybody a very fruitful and interesting symposium.
Thank you, Sana, for this perfect overview and some puzzling keywords. I hope it made you all curious about the TPL activities. Nevertheless, before we go more into detail here, we now rather zoom out once more. The research project TPL was and is still funded through the Ministry of Education and Research within the program FutureTex, which aims to revive the German textile industry with new innovative impulses. I'm now happy to hand the word to Dirk Schenderlein, who is the FutureTex program coordinator, who will tell you more about what the German textile industry needs and what was achieved through the FutureTex program throughout the past years. Enjoy.
It's a great pleasure for me to speak some words about FutureTex at your conference, about the FutureTex and the role of the Textile Prototyping Lab as one part of the FutureTex project. The Textile Prototyping Lab is a highlight project in FutureTex. That's totally clear. But for our participants, some words. What is FutureTex overall? FutureTex is a huge research project founded by the German government in the program 2020. And the first start, it begins in 2012 with the announcement of such program. The program objectives was to identify a future problem with a great social and economic relevance, and the solution should be realized by pooling of scientific, technical, and entrepreneurial skills, and to create new strategies in East Germany. And this should be by a new way of interdisciplinary cooperation. So this was in the announcement in 2012. In 2013, we create the idea, and our task was to create a future model for traditional industrial branches to secure the future for these branches. What opportunities we have for the textile industry? We have mainly the growth market of the technical textiles, and we are the world market leader in textile machinery here in Germany. And from the outside is coming the new principles of the fourth industrial revolution. This was 2013. And so we get the project and we get the funding for our consortium. In our consortium, we are actually over 300 participants, and which are involved in different tasks in this project. The vision of FutureTex is to support the textile technical industry to translate in a sustainable industrial partner. We have the vision, the strategy, and the objectives of FutureTex, and the content and the basics of FutureTex are product innovations with disruptive characters, efficient production technologies, and modern forms of organization. So in this surrounding, we generate a lot of research projects. We start with 4 basic projects. They are shown in the center of this graphic. One was Smart Factory, then the Working World 4.0. Then we have a basic project, mass customization, and one open innovation. These 4 projects defined the guidelines for the following research projects. You see around the circle a lot of projects, over 30 projects we initiate and realize. Some projects are dealing with digitization of the production, and another project, or a lot of other projects dealing with using digital technologies. And the third part are the projects which are dealing with disrupt product innovations for the textile industry. And for such projects is the Textile Prototyping Lab as an asset and important fact to realize some the research work. The way of future text is showing here in this slide. We start with the project 2015. And the first projects was initiated in 2016, and you see the roadmap, and you see also the history of the Textile Prototyping Lab. In the March 2015, here we discussed the first ideas together with Sane Bersina about the concept, and we think about or talk about ideas how we realize this and how we can realize this in this project. So in the June 2016, the idea was presented at our jury, and the jury takes a positive decision. So they say, yes, that's a good project. We can start this. So, and then the official start of this project was in June 2017. And now we are on a good way. We have a lot of high and lows in the future work, as you can tell a lot of these facts more, but we are on a very successful way. And the Textile Prototyping Lab is one of an important future text asset. An overview about some relevant assets in the future text you see here in the left side. We have the academy, we have the research and test areas, we have the future text incubator, we have the research network, and we have a lot of new technologies for new product ideas, for disruptive products. We have concepts for new machines, and we have the Textile Prototyping Lab. And on the right side, we classify all these assets with the topic of the achieved effect and the achieved sustainability. And there is a high potential for the Textile Prototyping Lab. The Future Text project will end it with the December of next year. During Corona, we have an add-on for the time. So, but for the future, we have to create a lot of sustainable structures for the know-how which was generated in the Future Text project. The premises of our work is our technical textiles, and the focus is on the small and medium sizes industry. And the Textile Prototyping Lab is one of the important asset for this task also in the future. This should be all for this event. I wish you a nice event and a good time, and enjoy.
Thank you, Dirk, for this great insight into the broad work and important goals of the Future Text program. Indeed, we are very happy that we could be part of it, and we are looking forward to our future collaboration. When setting up the Textile Prototyping Lab, it was our aim from the beginning that we wanted to bridge gaps between research, design, and industry, to actively involve and bring together different stakeholders and involve multiple people along the textile process chains in many ways. The whole project is about developing tools and methods to create a common language for designers, researchers, technologists, entrepreneurs, and many more. We are very excited to finally release our film, which we have been working on for a long time. And it takes you on a journey from Berlin to Saxony and Thüringen and back to Berlin to meet the TPL laboratories and people involved. Enjoy.
Das Faszinierende an Textilien ist ihre Vielseitigkeit. Beim Spuncover Project werden innovative textile Anwendungen für ein neues Spinnverfahren entwickelt, in dem die unterschiedlichsten Materialeigenschaften schon im ersten Schritt der Garnentstehung miteinander verbunden werden. Textilien sind auf der einen Seite haptisch und analog, verbinden aber auch das traditionelle Handwerk mit der heutigen digitalisierten Welt. Das Weben zum Beispiel basiert auf einem binären System, von dem sich das heute allgegenwärtige Pixelbild ableitet. Wer sich Textilien, ihr kulturelles Erbe und ihre Geschichte anschaut, der erkennt nicht nur Parallelen zu unserer Gegenwart, sondern blickt mit ihnen auch in die Zukunft. Die Textilbranche befindet sich in einer Transformationsphase, geprägt durch die Globalisierung, aber auch die großen Anforderungen an Nachhaltigkeit und Innovation. Auch in Deutschland wandern Industriezweige ab, entstehen Abhängigkeiten und technologisches Know-how geht verloren. Auf der anderen Seite gibt es viele junge, innovative Ideen, die für die Zukunftsfähigkeit dieser Traditionsbranche von enormer Bedeutung sind. Leider landen aber viele dieser guten Ideen weiterhin in der Schublade, da Orte für kreatives textiles Prototyping und die Möglichkeit zur Weiterentwicklung auf technologisch hohem Niveau fehlen. Wir als Textile Prototyping Lab wenden uns daher explizit an die Textilbranche, um sie auf dem Weg der Transformation zu unterstützen und zu begleiten. Unser interdisziplinäres Team aus den Bereichen Textilforschung, Elektronikforschung und Design hat dafür eine völlig neue Infrastruktur erschaffen. Seit 2017 bauen wir einen offenen Ort auf, der es ermöglicht, Textilien zu entwickeln und als Schnittstelle zwischen Forschung, Industrie und vor allem auch Design zu agieren. Diese Schnittstelle ist in Deutschland bisher einzigartig und das, obwohl Deutschland eine der führenden Kräfte im Bereich technische Textilien ist. Das Besondere am Textile Prototyping Lab ist, dass wir bestehende Ideen, Methoden und Konzepte wie Co-Creation und Open Innovation aufgreifen und spezifisch für den Textilbereich adaptieren. So sind wir in der Lage, nah an den Wünschen unserer Kunden und Kooperationspartner zu arbeiten. Gleichzeitig erschaffen wir neue und notwendige Freiräume, in denen Innovationen entstehen und wir gemeinsam mit Leidenschaft unsere textile Zukunft gestalten.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this short movie. We are happy that it's finally out there, and I think it's already wrapping up the idea of the Textile Prototyping Lab quite well. Nevertheless, I've prepared some slides to show you more about our journey. Nicely, Dirk already showed a bit when we originally started with the project in 2015, like talking about the project. And yeah, it's incredibly to see how long it takes until such projects are really implemented in a way. So first of all, I think we've mentioned it a couple of times already. The whole project is really about bridging the gaps between research, industry and design. And we also want to really include design and design-driven innovation processes into the whole TPL model. This map, or this slide shows you where the partners are being placed. So we have a couple of partners in Berlin, and as you can see, that's mainly partners from design and open innovation. And then we have all the know-how about textiles, like deep know-how in the region of Saxony and Thuringia. We also work with partners as an advisory board from the industry, and we still have a great textile industry in Germany and a lot of know-how, but it's also mainly not in Berlin, but in more in the countryside regions. So the TPL really is about bringing also, bringing those people together in several places and in projects. And how does it work? How do we work here at the Textile Prototyping Lab? We have actually several laboratories. The core of the TPL is the Central Lab here in Berlin. Right now we even have 2 lab locations, one at the Fraunhofer Institute for Reliability and Microintegration, and one at the Weissensee Academy of Arts, which can be seen as 2 central labs with easily accessible prototyping machines. And here you can also find a material library. This is more the accessible part. And then we have connected resources, machineries at the focus laboratories of the partners. So altogether you can say there's a holistic system that was built up throughout the project, connecting machineries, laboratories, know-how, and we are covering almost all textile technologies from different complexity levels. So now I invited the partners to introduce their institutes themselves, so you can also see and meet the people behind it. And we will see that in a short video now.
Hello, my name is Carina Wirth, and I'm a research associate at Weissensee Academy of Art Berlin. My focus is the area of textile development, technology and design. Mainly I supervise TPL projects and manage the Central Lab together with my colleague Essie Glomb. Most TPL projects start and end here in the Central Lab in Berlin. The Central Lab is placed at the Academy. Especially our Central Lab enables TPL users from different branches how to learn and use textile technologies in an easy and tangible way. Always in cooperation with us to enable a quick translation into our focus labs. At the same time, we are also at the intersection to young talents and develop educational formats to implement and support their ideas. This, combined with our focus labs, gives students access to industrial textile technology that wasn't much accessible before. Our infrastructure here ranges from classic textile technologies such as shaka weaving, knitting, embroidery, to further processing of finishing technologies such as soldering, laser cutting, 3D printing or plotting. All these machines are accessible and allow a fast realization of product ideas. After more than 4 years of developing our TPL infrastructure and network, I'm now looking forward to the exciting time that will come afterwards. For me, the TPL is a structure that can grow organically from now on in order to open up the borders of interdisciplinary textile creation and development.
Hallo liebe Teilnehmer vom heutigen TPL-Event. Mein Name ist Anna Große und ich bin wissenschaftliche Mitarbeiterin am Sächsischen Textilforschungsinstitut in Chemnitz. Das STFI ist eine gemeinnützige Forschungseinrichtung im Freistaat Sachsen und besteht seit über 25 Jahren. Unsere Forschungsschwerpunkte liegen in den Bereichen technische Textilien, Fließstoffe, textiler Leichtbau, Funktionalisierung, Recycling, Digitalisierung und Industrie 4.0. Wir haben ebenfalls langjährige Erfahrung im Bereich Prüfung und Zertifizierung, die wir auch als Dienstleistung anbieten. Die Aktivitäten des STFI werden vordergründig durch Kundenanfragen und Bedürfnisse definiert, sodass unsere Forschungstätigkeit sehr industrienah und anwendungsorientiert ausgerichtet ist. Das STFI ist Projektpartner im FutureTex-Vorhaben TPL und so Teil des Konsortiums und bietet und bindet verschiedene Anlagen und Technologien wie den 3D-Druck, das Stricken oder Bandweben in Form des dezentralen Focus Labs an. Durch die Kooperation im TPL konnten wir zum einen eine Vergrößerung unseres internationalen und interdisziplinären Netzwerks erreichen und sowohl technologisch als auch konzeptionell unseren Erfahrungsschatz erweitern. Ein weiterer wichtiger Punkt ist für uns die Erprobung der Forschungs- und Entwicklungsarbeit im Bereich von Open Innovation Umgebungen.
Hello, my name is Malte from Przywolocki and I'm working for the Fraunhofer Institute for Reliability and Microintegration. There I'm leading the group System on Flex. At Fraunhofer, we are developing technologies to build and manufacture electronics. Mostly we are focused on miniaturization, more reliable electronics, making them more efficient, and nowadays especially also more sustainable. In the project, our expertise is the integration of electronics into textiles. And therefore, specifically in the context of prototyping, therefore we developed an electronic toolbox consisting of different sensors, actuators, and communication modules to enable fast and easy smart textiles prototyping with a multitude of textile substrates, materials manufactured in different technologies. Exciting for me especially was the work with an interdisciplinary consortium. Each person in this consortium has different approaches to solve challenges, and I'm very happy to say that we finally managed to develop out of this pool of expertise a concept and the prototyping process for textiles in general. Also, I'm very happy that we could establish physical textile prototyping lab at our institute, which is a perfect room for fast smart textiles prototyping at the intersection of electronics, design, and textiles. And with that structure now, I'm looking forward to many exciting following projects. Thank you.
Hallo vom TDV aus Greiz. Wir als Institut und externer Lab-Partner im TPL-Projekt haben vor allem unsere Expertise zu den Smart Textiles und dem Prototyping eingebracht. Wir selbst kommen dabei von der ersten Idee über das Prototyping bis hin zum Scale-Up für unsere Maschinentechnik in Frage. Unsere Rolle im TPL war natürlich genau dieses: Prototypen erstellen und diese dann auch auf Industriemaschinen umsetzen. Für uns war am spannendsten im Projekt die Kombination aus Design, aus Technik und natürlich der Anwendung für unsere Smart Textiles. Aus den 4,5 Jahren haben wir am besten lernen können, was es heißt, auch mit Design und mit Gestaltung umzugehen. Und sehr spannend war vor allem auch, wie nicht textile Ideen zu Beginn sich entwickelt haben zu einer reifen Lösung. Unsere Vision für die Zukunft ist natürlich, dieses Prototyping zu erweitern, weiterhin anzubieten, und wir haben vor allem gelernt, dass es wichtig ist, die Prototypen zu haben, damit man eben Markt und Partner und Chefs überzeugen kann davon, wie ein Demonstrator aussehen kann, aber auch wie seine Funktion gegeben ist. Vielen Dank.
Hi, my name is Daniel Helzel. I'm the Director of Prototypes for Europe, an agency located in Berlin, focusing on technology transfer. And we've been part of the project Textile Prototyping Lab since the beginning, originally as Fab Lab Berlin. So we started to provide the physical environment of the Textile Prototyping Lab. And since we changed as an organization ourselves, we developed into a consortium partner who is focusing on aspects of sustainability. So we are currently taking care of questions like, how can the Textile Prototyping Lab exist in the future beyond project runtime? What kind of organization should the Textile Prototyping Lab be? Which services could it offer to partners like you guys? And if you'd ask me about the perfect future scenario of the Textile Prototyping Lab, currently I'd say that I picture a hub for R&D projects, both publicly financed but also industrial projects. A hub that brings together a variety of stakeholders to conduct complex product development projects which they couldn't execute individually. So this is what I see as a perfect future as a textile prototyping lab, and what I will support in the future. Looking back at the project's Textile Prototyping Lab, I would say that I really enjoyed it, primarily because of the consortium partners and the different types of collaboration partners that we also met during the projects. And some of you are in the audience, actually. So this is what I think is unique, and what made it a pretty amazing project so far. And I can't wait to co-create the organization Textile Prototyping Lab with all of you guys in the future, ideally, and looking forward to connect.
Thank you, dear partners, for introducing yourself. So on this image, you can see all the partners back in 2017 when we kicked off the Textile Prototyping Lab project. What you can see there are very different people, technologists, researchers, designers, and people from business, and we were all standing there with our own expertise, and we have never worked in this kind of setting before with such diverse people. And we also didn't know what was going to happen throughout the next years. So we started with really like nothing, and the first steps were traveling. We traveled throughout Europe, and we visited best practices in Helsinki, in Borås, Sweden, the Fab Lab Amsterdam, and we also visited the Textile Lab in Tilburg. We were impressed by all these different models and concepts and ideas, and yeah, we were inspired, and we really wanted to get things started. So we slowly started to build our own infrastructure, and the Textile Prototyping Lab started to take shape. We ordered first machines. Here in the image you can see a digital jacquard weaving loom, the TC2, and started sampling, and little by little also built up the idea of a material library, which should have an own architecture for itself. But of course we also had to define what the Textile Prototyping Lab would be. We were all separated institutions. So could we actually go to the outside under one logo, under one corporate identity, and become a team, almost an institution on its own? In 2018, the first projects were implemented slowly. A 3D printing workshop called Self-Shaping Textiles, using 3D printing technology on textiles, so they start to shape into the third dimension. We did student projects and also more professional projects like this field flight project together with the product designer and Lufthansa. We started to network, to take part in festivals, but we were still not sure where this is going to end up. In 2019, we got to know each other better and better. We visited each other's laboratories, we worked there together, we showed what we do, what our expertises are. We developed formats to actually work together in workshops, for example. We moved several times throughout the project, and here you can see our flying jacquard weaving loom when we moved from one place to another, and this has been a topic throughout the project, that we always needed to move from one place to another, and never really found, until a certain point, found our own space. In 2019, a real highlight was the implementation of the Plus Minus project. You will also hear more about it later on. It was the first exercise of how we really work from the central lab to the decentral lab, back to the central lab, how we really link processes and machines and technologies together, and also work closely with the test client at that time, Studio Stefan Dietz, and the lighting company Vibia. In a very short time, we were able to develop a great functional prototype and even produce a textile strap for a presentation of that prototype at a fair. And what we realized through this project is what we actually are able to do when we all work together and when our process chains are working. So that was hard, but also it was really like the starting point that we, I think, felt like a team. In 2019, we did several projects and tried out projects with different users. So throughout the whole research period, we defined test projects with users, for example, from the creative sphere, from business, SMEs, startups, students, and so on. And we wanted to find out what user types we can make an offer to and what would be the benefits for them. So here, for example, you can see a project we did with artist Heba Amin on the west, down there, a woven tapestry presented in Egypt. We opened our laboratory to Studio Mayas Flugmann so they could develop prototypes for the Vivid Colors project. They will also tell more about it later. We did a cooperation with a research project, Texas, and we invited a researcher who wove yarn-based energy generators in the shape of yarns on our TC2 looms. So very different user groups were able to actually fulfill their projects through our infrastructure and with our support. Of course, we also continuously worked on our infrastructure setup. Our material library was built and turned into reality and filled more and more with samples. We collect samples from projects that we do, but we also produce our own samples. And for this, we developed our own sampling manual, so we actually can compare samples made on different machines. We also, in the back end, to really be able to document our processes and plan processes between these different institutions that are being part of the Textile Prototyping Lab. We also really developed our own software, a process management software, which is an incredibly useful tool. In 2020, we extended our pilot projects to students, and we conducted a very big semester project with 10 students from the Weißensee Academy of Art Berlin. And during the project, they had the chance to really develop their ideas, not only in the context of the university, but to transfer it also to industrial machines and really bring their ideas into reality. I think that was a great experience for the students, and real success stories came up. For example, Urban Fibers, you will meet them also later in the thematic sessions. They are now continuing their work outside of the university as professionals. Another tool that we use in the Textile Prototyping Lab is an e-textiles toolkit. This toolkit is very useful because you can actually be very explorative with e-textiles in a first step, but in a second step, those ideas that you prototype maybe more creatively can be transferred into an industrial context with the same modules. So we are always trying to bridge the gaps from creative prototyping to professional prototyping to creating a real working MVP in the end. This year was very intense and very exciting, and we complemented diverse projects with large partners from education, research, and the textile industry, such as a smart textiles exhibit for the Touch Tomorrow science truck, a therapeutic leggings with the DFKI, and the implementation of 4 product visions for peppermint spun cover technology. But we also did small projects in our lab. For example, woven prototypes with Shiengora yarn. The yarn is made from dog hair. We extended our knowledge and we learned new methods and technologies, working with people from the industry on one hand, but on the other hand, in other days, working with kids in our lab. So we were always trying to create creative environments that make it possible to meet and cooperate at eye level. And I think that's the core of the TPL. So if you ask me, after over 4 years, how a project like this actually really works, I would answer that it needs places and it needs people. places which give you a space to explore and try out new things, and at the same time are able to bring your dreams into reality. Spaces which enable you rather than block you. But those spaces will never function without people who stimulate those environments and fill it with ideas. People who are enthusiastic about what they do and curious about what is possible. People who are driving forces of visions and ideas that reach beyond tomorrow. So thinking again at the very first picture of the TPL team back in 2017, I can see that almost all of them are still part of the project team and even more joined. And all of them are possibly even more enthusiastic and committed than ever before. And I would say that nowadays we are even standing a bit closer together than back then, wanting not to just finish the project, but to find solutions to transfer it into a sustainable organizational model for the future. So I'm curious where the journey of the TPL still brings us. So now I'm ending my little overview of how the TPL turned into what it is now. And I would like to go back to the very beginning and a personal memory. In 2011, as a textile design student, in the third semester, I visited the Textile Lab in Tilburg, in the Netherlands, for the first time, which was a real eye-opening experience to me, and, as it should turn out later, also a crucial moment for my own career. At this place, textile technology suddenly became visible and accessible, but at the same time, it connected the present with the past, being located in the middle of the archives in a textile museum. Here, everything seemed to be possible, and textile visions became tangible. Since that visit, the idea of building up an inspiring and open place in Germany, enabling the implementation of textile projects beyond institutional boundaries, became a dream. Many years later, after numerous conversations and after the right partnerships and programs were established, this dream finally began to come true. So now I'm more than happy that Hebe Verstappen agreed to join today's event. Since 2013, Hebe Verstappen is head of the Textile Lab, the innovative atelier of the Textile Museum in Tilburg, which nowadays is an internationally renowned development location for textile projects, located in the heart of the museum. Here, professionals are explicitly engaged in creating special tailor-made projects, and there's plenty of room for research and experimentation. Thank you, Hebe, for being here to introduce this very special and inspiring place to us. We are looking forward to your presentation now.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Hebe Verstappen and I'm head of the Textile Lab. The Textile Lab is the workshop of the Textile Museum in the Netherlands in Tilburg. And in the upcoming 20 minutes, I will take you with me through the museum into the organization and tell you about our ambitions and about our plans. So I will share my screen with you. So, creating a dialogue about the past and the present. We are a working museum. And this museum was founded about 60 years ago. And it has grown into an internationally renowned institute with its own museum collection, as well as our in-house textile expertise about fashion, about the making, about art, and about heritage. And what makes the museum so unique is that it is a working museum. And at its heart of the museum, there is that lab where artists and designers can come to develop new textiles right in front of the eyes of the textile visitor, the museum visitor. So here you see briefly an introduction into the lab. You can see people that are working there and you see some machines. And on the other side, you can see some pieces that were made in the workshop. I want to show a short film so you get really an introduction about the Institute. So let's tap to the next slide. At the end from the film, you saw an overview of the complex. So when you come in, you see the old buildings and you see the new building. Because the Textile Museum is housed in a former textile factory in the middle of Tilburg. And in the 70s, this building, it was a former woolen mill, was nearly lost. What a better place to introduce the public, but also the professionals in the world of textiles. So in 2008, a transparent glass building, you saw it on the film, was placed. And the combination of the historical and the modern architecture gave our site a new impulse, and it reflects what we are. We connect the heritage with the future of textiles. So textile heritage is clearly visible in this site and in everything we do. It ties in perfectly with the original function of the textile factory, a place where industry, creativity, and craftsmanship came together. Spanning a century, the museum's own archives and museum collection is an unlimited source of inspiration, from forgotten techniques, from recipes for dyeing and designs and original samples. We collect textile design, but also fine art and also machines like industrial heritage and books and also a sample collection. So everybody who's working here can feel what was made. And the library, the museum collection and the exhibition are an excellent resource and inspiration for who is coming to work in the lab. So where do we believe in? We believe that everybody has a connection with textiles. So textiles are all around us. It can make the world more beautiful, safer, more efficient, more social, comfortable, and sustainable. We are just not always aware of this anymore. So where are we standing for as a museum and as a lab? The lab, the museum, is the only museum in the world that brings everything related to textiles together. So inspiration, meaning, heritage, craftsmanship, creation, innovation, education, and also entrepreneurship. And it does this by astounding everyone, young and old, professional, artists, and the business. That is why we say, discover what textiles can do. And who do we want to discover that? Designers, artists, young talent, textile lovers, families, and also communities. We believe that everyone feels a connection with textiles. Textiles belong to all cultures across the world, and therefore belong to all people. Textiles surround us. And when the production of textiles became industrialized, taking place further and further away from our homes, we gradually lost touch with the making process and becoming less connected with textiles. And that is why we want to give textiles the podium it deserves, once again. And we allow people to discover what textiles can do and mean by creating a sense of wonder. Then we go to the Textile Lab. And the lab is the unique knowledge center in the middle of that museum that is specialized in producing experimental knits and woven fabric, but also an open atelier where innovation can take central stage. National and international designers, architects, fashion designers, artists, promising students are coached by our product developers and our technical experts to discover the endless possibilities in the field, from the yarns to the machines, to the handcrafts and the software that is used to make these textiles. And the lab is home to an enthusiastic team of passionate technical specialists, also almost 25, product developers and a yarn expert. And our training policy is geared towards investing in highly specialized knowledge of the design process, the yarns, the materials, the textile techniques. And of course, the target user and the end product are of vital importance in that. And all new employees of the lab receive an intense internal hands-on training. Sometimes the training costs 2 or 3 years. And they then go to receive a further in-depth training with one of our international partners, like machine builders, and the technical support of our team members as the product developers, the material experts and technicians are fundamental for every project we do. And next to that, we also work with a large group of volunteers and also interns. So every new fabric for us, every stitch and every new knit begins with a single thread. And that is why the Textile Lab has its own yarn advisor. She's working for 40 hours a week, sourcing for the best yarns that we can use with the artist, like monofilaments, conductive threads, polyurethane, sustainable viscose, fire retardant trivera. And our advisor is constantly in the lookout. And the fact that visitors can see textile developed in the lab, lively, before their own eyes is really unique. The high-tech textile machinery is at work non-stop, and the weaving or knitting the newest creations. And while the lab is the favorite with renowned designers, artists, keen to work here, making use of the digital and traditional textile machinery, and to develop experimental and innovative work. Visitors can see the first samples of a jacquard knit that in about 2 or 3 years will be in the shops or seen in a museum in New York or anywhere else. And our way of working in a museum and a lab allows us to connect the past with modern developments in technology and culture. In this way, we keep craftsmanship alive and offer the makers of tomorrow the chance to realize their textile ideas. Here you see one of our curators together with an artist, and she has a dialogue. She's studying of new damask bindings, and she will translate it to a new damask. So the collection is an important source of knowledge and inspiration. It's the binding factor and forms a sort of foundation of our institute. It plays a crucial role in our commissions that we give. And since the end of the 90s, the museum has actively commissioned many works. We invite the designers or artists and make something for our own museum collection. And in this process, the professional maker is inspired by the heritage collection, like you see here. And the commissioned work we adopt into our own museum collection, so the next generation can study also on that. And in this way, our historical collection is used to create new works. The museum does more than just collect the final work, and that's quite special because objects from the early stage of development are also collected, like little sketches, little design drawings, samples that were not good enough. We all keep that in our museum collection to study for the next generation. So by bringing the whole process into one place, we can be like a circle of inspiration, innovation, creation. And by working like this, we stimulate connections with the past, the present, and the future, with technology and technique, with designer, and also with the craftsman. And the machines are in constant use by our clients. In 2017, we decided to be more selective in request of the weaving and the knitting because we got so many requests from all over the world. And we have chosen to focus on investing more in innovation and research. Applications are weekly selected on motivation, innovation, and artistry by a committee of creative, technical, and content-driven members of our own organization. So we have every Wednesday morning, we have like hard discussions about all the applications we get and which project fits into the museum collection, fits into the programming of the exhibitions, or drive us to, see what a machine can do. In the center, we call it a center of excellence, and that's situated in a shed in the middle of the lab. And there are the weaving and the knitting techniques. And research and development and experimental play are there the central role. And in the sample studio next to that, That's a space where the most special prototypes and samples from the lab are on display, like 10 years lab. And you can see the samples, but you can also feel it, and you can study it with a little loop. Then we have around it, we have the Center of Crafts, where the techniques of tufting and passementerie and dyeing come together. These are more than manual techniques, and they are used for projects and commissions, also for the professionals. And we have a finishing atelier. It's somewhere in the final stage in the making process. It's in the upper floor, but we aim to have it in 2024 also next to us in the lab. So now I want to show you a short movie where you can really see what we are doing with architects and artists, and you see the workflow and how we work together with them. Textile Lab is onderdeel van het Textiel Museum. Het is eigenlijk een werkplaats waarin we met een team van ongeveer 25 mensen werken we daar op computergestuurde machines, maar ook op handmatige machines. En je kunt daar als ontwerper of als toptalent of interieurarchitect kun je een aanvraag indienen en gaan wij samen met zo'n ontwerper kijken of we een project kunnen realiseren. Wij selecteren eigenlijk op innovatie en we selecteren op of het echt mogelijk is op onze machines en met ons team. En dan gaan we met de architect of met de modeontwerper gaan we schetsen bekijken. We beginnen te zoeken in de garenbank, we gaan naar de bibliotheek van het museum en dan starten we.
Dit kunstwerk op de Holland Boulevard heet 10.800 horizons. En deze titel die is eigenlijk gerelateerd aan het aantal draden wat we hebben gebruikt om eigenlijk die horizon heel erg te versterken. Het eerste idee van de wand was gebaseerd op een foto van echt een oer-typisch Nederlands landschap, waar we artistieke vrijheid in hebben genomen om dat ook te vertalen naar een heel ander medium, namelijk textiel.
Nou, er zijn natuurlijk niet zo heel veel plekken in Nederland waar je echt met goede machinerie en ervaren mensen materialen kan testen. Textile Lab is echt een unieke plek. Ook door samen te werken dan weer met een textielontwerper, dus in dit geval een Samira Boon, haal je gewoon alles eruit wat erin zit. En dan kun je gewoon unieke dingen doen.
Met het team van het hele museum zoeken wij eigenlijk altijd naar de tendensen die er op dit moment aan de hand zijn. We bezoeken beurzen, we gaan naar machinebouwers, we gaan naar garenfabrikanten. En zo hebben wij in de gaten wat er speelt en wat er interessant is voor Textile Lab om die stap verder te zetten.
Het kleurschema hebben we eigenlijk neergelegd in linens. En die linens die zijn heel gort droog. Onze adviseur en degene die altijd die wandbespanningen maakt, die zei dat gaat niet, je moet hem om de 50 centimeter vastzetten. Dus we hadden stalen gemaakt waarbij om de 50 centimeter dat was vastgezet met een goudgarre. En toen ging ik dat presenteren en toen zei de vicepresident, het is me net iets te schaal. En toen dacht ik, oh jee, nou moet ik iets anders verzinnen. En als je naar allerlei bestaande materialen kijkt, dan zijn ze, zodra je het woord goud noemt of goud erin verwerkt, dan is het, vind ik, te protserig. En toen ben ik te raden gegaan bij het Textile Lab. En ik was gefascineerd door de manier waarop de ambachtelijkheid die er in textielen zitten, samen met computergestuurde technieken en machines, hoe dat in elkaar gevlochten werd daar. En daar hebben ze dat gouddraad, dat lurekstraad, in 2 lagen verwerkt, waardoor het niet 100% linnen is, maar er wel linnen in zit. We willen graag dat het linnen die uitstraling blijft houden, maar het moet iets rijker. En hun expertise was daarbij ongelooflijk groot. Zij wisten precies welke kant we op moesten. Ze maakten proeven, ononderbroken dus ze hebben het gedaan.
We
we zien ook dat we steeds meer projecten doen die echt buiten de grenzen van Nederland te zien zijn. En zo hebben we bijvoorbeeld dat project in Doha gedaan. Ja, dat is natuurlijk niet niks, hè? Dat je in Tilburg, in Brabant, zo'n prachtig doek mag ontwikkelen, wat uiteindelijk daar in het Midden-Oosten te zien is.
We wilden al heel gauw, kwamen tot de conclusie dat we met het Textile Lab en het Textielmuseum wilden gaan werken. We hebben al eerder samengewerkt aan een weefsel. Normaal weven wij niet. En in dit geval waren we zo deel van het gebouw dat we eigenlijk jaren daarvoor al hadden bedacht dat het gordijn in kwestie aan een stalen structuur moest gaan hangen. Ik heb toen bedacht dat die balk schuin moest hangen, parallel aan de stoelen van het auditorium. En als het van een schuin punt hangt, dan wordt die stof niet heel erg mooi. Die valt dan gewoon niet mooi. Dan gaat trekken en dat ziet er niet mooi uit. Bovendien heb je 2 schuine kanten en 2 rechte kanten. Nou, boven en onder zou het doek recht hangen, maar natuurlijk langs de stoelen hangt het schuin. Dus we beseften dat we een doek moesten maken wat teruggeschoven moest worden. Langs, dus van een rechte stand in een schuine stand en dan weer in een rechte stand. En dat was eigenlijk de grote puzzel die we met het Textielmuseum hebben opgelost. Ik vind het eindresultaat, de stof, prachtig geworden. Echt heel erg mooi. Ik heb enorm respect voor het Textielmuseum. Ook omdat het niet alleen maar weven was, maar ook allerlei behandelingen die na het weven nog gedaan moesten worden door hun. Althans, door hun gecoördineerd en georganiseerd. Want zoals gezegd, die stof moest brandvrij gemaakt worden. Dus er zijn allerlei onverwachte stappen nog gezet die fantastisch zijn, dat mensen zich zo inzetten en overal over meedenken. Hè? Dat je echt kunt, wat ik noem, pingpongen en samenwerken om het beste resultaat te bereiken.
So, behind me, you see the latest project in the film. It was made for the National Library in Doha, Qatar. And a nice thing to know for you, I think, is that the yarns that were used here were mainly used for like the Chanel bags and Chanel jackets. So it's a viscose yarn that is very crispy, but it was not fire retardant. So we did a whole research, and you saw it also in the film, with spraying like a coating over it. And in that way, we could use, because they fell in love with the material and the glaze, and in that way we could use that yarn for the public building. So one of our most important focus points for the whole museum, but especially for the lab, is to exchange knowledge and expertise. And therefore we offer placements to new talents from renowned national and international academies, like the Art Institute in Chicago, Design Academy in Eindhoven. And the lab, with its semi-industrial surrounding, is of crucial importance, allowing students to learn how to put textile craftsmanship into practice and how to communicate with the men and all the people on the machines, because it's a special language. And schools are unable to offer this within their own curriculum. And every year we select highly talented textile, art and design students from schools, academies to work in the lab. And the students spend almost a week in our lab and, well, get fully access to all the facilities. And what young people learn, I heard that it is in use for them through all their career. So with this approach, we build a connection between young talents, the future, and our own institute. And we are a podium and a springboard, and that is what we want to be for the young talents in the world of textiles. So today's fast-changing world demands smart new solutions, and that is why the Textile Lab makes R&D a priority. We wish to respond to recent developments in the field of textiles, technology, culture, and society. And knowledge of our history and craftsmanship is essential to mark these developments. And here you see a project building with textiles, and it was the first of such a long-term R&D, like 2 or maybe 4 years studying to have the folding effect together with Studio Samira Boon. And for the next coming years, we are committed to explore the use of this kind of textiles that are like an alternative for building material, like in its own right. And now we are working with Studio Drift, and in the world of the tech art inspired by life, Studio Drift has been active since 2007, and their work focuses on the relationship between the nature and technology and deals with the role of awareness of changing society. And in the upcoming years, together with Studio Drift, we are working in co-creation in the lab to research and develop an eye-catching interactive installation that brings together textiles, technology, and imagination. So imagine there will be like a museum floor, all moving textiles. And this new interactive installation will be central in our exhibition next year. Is It Alive? It's not next year, it's 2023. And of course, these objects will also include it in our museum collection. So we believe strongly in the principle of Confucius. What I hear is what I forget. What I see is what I remember. But what I do, I understand. And that is why we wanted to have the visitor in our museum also becomes a maker. And we give them the opportunity to discover what it means to be a maker for themselves in the middle of the lab, with the professional machines, with the skilled experts in the lab. And by trying it out in a hands-on approach, creating your own design, personalizing, experimenting, and tinkering, you can gain an insight into how textiles are made. The addition, we call it the design studio. I will show you after this. The addition of the design studio to the lab adds a new impulse to our unique concept as an ideal place to work and to learn, and not only for professionals and the talents, but also the museum visitor. And the visitor can become an active participant, like a professional designer. And you get the chance to design your own high-end fashion product. So you create your design, choosing an organic yarn, choosing the color, and soon afterwards, the design product emerges from the machine next to you. And now it's a sock and a scarf, but in 2 years, it will be another product. I will show you, we asked Bert-Jan Pot, a Dutch designer, of course, to make like a color concept, to make a concept where the visitor can play with. And he will explain it to you in this short film.
Ik vind het heel fijn als iets wat uit je handen komt, je hoofd kan verrassen, zeg maar. Als je een experiment aangaat, is de regel het simpelste ding eerst. Dus het meest basic ding wat je kunt verzinnen met de techniek waarmee je aan het werk bent, dat doe je eerst. Het Textielmuseum kwam bij mij met de vraag van, zou jij een soort basis willen ontwerpen? Een basissjaal en een basissok waarop mensen zelf hun eigen sok kunnen ontwerpen. Het idee was redelijk snel om iets te doen met kleur en met garen laten mengen tot nieuwe kleuren. En daar gewoon strepen mee te brengen. Maar je kunt natuurlijk ook met 2 kleuren garen 1 nieuwe kleur mengen. En dat hebben we gedaan in dit project. Dus we hebben hier een sjaal, even kijken, deze. Dat vind ik echt een van de mooiste kleuren. Nou, als je er nu zo naar kijkt, is het grijs. Maar hij bestaat dus uit deze 2 kleuren. Dat is gewoon een roze en deze groen. Juist dat experiment van kleuren naast elkaar leggen en daar ook weer door verrast worden van wat kleuren met elkaar doen. Dat is voor mij ontwerpen en dat is ook graag iets wat ik mensen wil meegeven.
So for your ID, you can book a time slot on the website. You can come to the museum, and then there's a host, and she or he will guide you through the whole design process. And at the end, a new machine that is knitting socks will knit your own socks, and you can put your own text in the top of the sock. And it's really a nice present. And we do it also with schools in the neighborhood in Tilburg. The MBOs, the middle schools, are really enjoying and learning about the whole process, and never buy socks anymore for €1 at the Primark. And that's what we also want to achieve. So in the end, the principles of the Textile Museum and the Textile Lab are, we see ourselves the museum of the future, like a textile making center where co-creation, learning and experiment, showing the make adventure, because we call it like every time it's an adventure what we do. A visitor becomes a creator, and sharing knowledge and keeping the craft alive, and programming, of course, actual exhibitions. And of course, sustainability and textiles are like clicked together. So that's our focus through everything we do. So I want to thank the organization for inviting me, and thank you for your attention. And we hope that when you are in the Netherlands, you pass by, you are more than welcome in the Textile Museum. And I wish you a very inspiring symposium the rest of the day.
Thank you, Hebe, for these inspiring insights.